Hi, good morning, everyone. At least good morning from IST. Hope you're having a great autumn hack so far. And please ignore my messy background. We are here for Grace Ling's workshop. Grace is an amazing designer, and she is also a UX design intern at Electronic Arts, and also the founder and design lead of Design Buddies, and a computer science and engineering student at Santa Clara University. And she has been involved with designing for a long time, and Design Buddies is a great inclusive community for thousands of developers. I am one of those developers in her community, and it is just so amazing to have her today speak about how to build a UI UX for your hacks. So I would welcome Grace on the stage.
Cool. Hello. Thank you so much for having me
Hi.
on. Hello. Cool. Should I?
Yes,
I'll.
this has been really cool. I was looking forward to this workshop from a long time, and finally here it is. So I know it
Awesome.
is nighttime for you. You are from San Francisco, and thank you so much for taking out the time. I understand. I totally know how busy has this week been for you, and you taking out time for a workshop means a lot.
Yeah, of course.
So
Thank you for having me on.
yes, and the stage is all yours.
Awesome. Cool. Hello, everybody. I'll start sharing my presentation. And throughout this presentation, I'll be asking questions throughout the chat, so feel free to engage as well. And it looks like I can only share, oh, there we go. My application window. Okay, there it is. All right, cool. Do you guys all see my screen? I just want to make sure it's all on. Okay, cool. I see myself. All right. Oops, not this one. Sorry. Present. So throughout this workshop, I will be kind of giving over an overview of design thinking, how you guys as developers and anybody in tech in general can start from an idea and think through a problem, and then intro to UI UX design, and lastly end with a Figma demo, how to use Figma as a developer and a designer to make your ideas come to life. All right, let's get started. So throughout this presentation, I'll kind of go over like what is design, and then what design thinking is, how you guys can apply design thinking to bring a solution to a problem, and then UX design, interfacing between the user and the product, and what UX designers do in case you're thinking of doing that for your career, and UI design, which is user interface design. And so a little about myself, I'm currently at Electronic Arts. I'm also founder and design lead of Design Buddies. You guys are all welcome to join. And I'm also a computer science and engineering student from California. I go to Santa Clara University in Silicon Valley, and I'm also studying computer science just like most of you guys, but decided to pursue a career in UX and product design. I also do a lot of side hustles. I have my own art business, and I do social media and blogging. This photo is actually me at Crunchyroll Expo a few years back with Arila Kuma. I used to table at anime conventions a lot just for fun to sell art. And yeah, my website's just graceling.com. And so what do you guys think design is? Oops, did I skip? Feel free to answer as well. Yeah, EA is definitely a great place to internet, Vishal, in the chat. But yeah, so design is essentially a problem-solving process. Design is not art. Art is expressing yourself, and design is solving problems through an iterative process. It involves a lot of users and business and balancing of user and business goals to solve a problem and keep getting feedback and keep improving. So you keep iterating upon that. And so it's different than art. Art is expressing yourself. Design is solving a problem with an actual need. But both work together hand in hand, and both are really important to our society. The goal is just create user experiences. And yeah. And so you might have seen this before. This is called design thinking. It's like a 5-step process where you take an idea or a problem and you bring it to real life. And so empathizing meaning you understand what's going on, you consult with experts, you really define the pain points. And then you later, after gathering all this research and data, you define the problem you're solving. And once you narrow down that one thing you want to solve from whatever data you gathered, you want to ideate a solution. So kind of think outside the box, think of how all these different ways you can see it. So oftentimes you see stock photos of designers with a bunch of sticky notes in the background. This is what they're doing. They're ideating. And later you'll decide, we're usually working in a team, pick a few of these problems and you prototype them, meaning make a version of it on Figma or any balsamic or any prototyping tool, and later test it and validate your data. And later, once you prove that people understand your product with user testing, usability testing, then it's later to be handed off to developers, and this is where you guys come in. But it's also important as a developer to be involved in a product end to end, because you guys can provide feedback. Like when you work with designers, you know if this idea is technically feasible, so you always have that in your back pocket to kind of be involved in this process as well. And so design is all about solving problems. So current design challenges, I guess examples of problems you guys can be solving from hackathons is, this is more related to the virus, COVID. And so like definitely healthcare system, at least in the US, it's like, I think we passed like 9 million cases today. It's crazy. Like healthcare systems exhausted, balancing COVID patients and regular patients as well. Working remotely, how can we reach the same engagement while working in a remote setting in a company? How do we support small businesses as these social distancing restrictions enable like kind of drive away their businesses, and much more problems. So there's definitely a lot of things you can work on as designers, as developers, as engineers in this world that can help solve currently problems that are going on. And so UX versus UI design is quite different. I like to think of it as the human body. So UX is like the skeleton, the overall wireframe, the overall path the user will go into. And UI is how it would look like the skin, like the colors. UX is skeleton, UI is the skin, and how things would look like. And these two work together hand in hand. So as a designer, it's really important to know a little bit of both, but sometimes people choose to focus on more UX, some more UI, and both are equally as important. They work really closely with each other as a system. And so design thinking is a problem-solving process. So, and anybody working in tech, whether you're a design, product manager, engineer, you're always involved in this process of taking a project, taking a problem, and turning that into a project, and being involved and from the problem to the solution to shipping the product end to end. So this is kind of how you kind of think about how to tackle that problem you're trying to solve. And so again, I'm showing this process, but in reality, it's actually a lot more complicated than that. It's not just all linear. Oftentimes, every time you move to the next step, you will learn something new, and sometimes you might need to go back a few steps and reevaluate. So definitely empathizing, defining, ideating. Sometimes, like let's say you're just after you kind of you thought of all these like problem areas you could be tackling. After you just define a few, you realize that like you might need to do more research, so you go back. And so you ideate, you thought so many solutions, and then you later kind of get confused about what problem you're trying to solve, so you go back. And again, like every time you make a new step, you always learn something new. Let's say you're prototyping it and you're testing it, and you realize that you're missing a key feature that users are needing. So you want to go back to doing some research. And let's say you implement it, you ship it, you collect post-launch metrics, your customers hate something. Then our customers are misclicking something. Customers are getting really confused, or users are getting really confused. Then you need to go back and do some research. So in reality, it's not a linear process. Like you will learn something new at every step, and sometimes you need to reevaluate and go back and kind of reassess and redo it. So design thinking, it's always a living process. And so this example, sometimes it's kind of hard to learn things with examples. Without examples, so I'm gonna kind of take you through how I ideated my Discord case study, and I imagine you guys all love Discord. So I basically did this for a class, and it was my first ever product design project where I took an app, found pain points of it, and designed a solution. So in Discord, this is the case study I'll be running through as I run through these examples of design thinking and kind of applying to what I did for my project. And so you guys can think about how you want to do it with your project as well. So in Discord, I found that it was quite hard to keep track of messages. Like admins can pin, but then like it's not personalized. Like users can't pin. People have different definitions of what messages are important to them. So that's why I came up with bookmarks, and I'll later be going over this process. So the first step is empathize. So basically understanding, you really want to this is really important to really have knowledge of what exactly users are struggling with and like what businesses need. So a lot of times consult experts like professionals as well, not just designers like outside of tech. Like let's say you're designing an app for hospitals, you want to consult healthcare experts in this phase right here. Basically gathering information during our interviews. Basically setting aside your assumptions because you are designing for somebody else. So you want to make sure that like just because you like this color or you like these two color combinations, like as somebody, if they don't have enough contrast and somebody is colorblind, then that's like not a good design because they can't use it. So it's beyond yourself. So that's why you need to do all this research. And you also really want to know what's out there. So not only you want to look at the users, you want to look at what competitors or what is out there already on the market, so to make sure you're not solving the same problem or solving a problem that's already being solved. And then during this phase, you always ask a lot of questions like the who, what, when, where, why, like who are the users, what exactly do they need, and how would this product fulfill that need, and just making that clear, and like what are the business goals, because even if you might like tackle a user need, but if it doesn't make the business more money, there's no point in doing that because there's no way that could be sustainable. So not only you had to tackle a need, you also had to make sure it's cost saving and revenue generating for the business itself. And also like what currently exists to solve that problem. So like market research, and what other customers are like, let's say like what other common apps users of your app are using. So when I did my Discord case study, I looked at users who are using Slack. I looked at users who are using TeamSpeak, using Skype to communicate with their friends, to really understand like what they like and dislike with all these apps. So I know exactly what features I want to focus on while keeping user needs and business goals in mind. And this is when I also gather data through a lot of user interviews and surveys. So oftentimes this is where the UX researcher comes in, where they do all these interviews, surveys, collecting both qualitative data, quantitative data and everything, and doing some analysis, and also reviewing business goals and just working with the business, product management, designers, and researchers, just to try to balance the user need and business goal. And also this is when the engineers also can get involved as well. Engineers often know if something is feasible, so they kind of establish technical limitations in the beginning, so it's not too hard to develop and it fits within the timeline, the company that works with the company. So most of my examples come from working at EA, kind of like what I've learned in the company setting, but definitely when you're a hackathon, all of these processes happen at a much faster pace as well. And so another way to synthesize these data is using personas. So personas are something you might have seen before. They're kind of fake people, but these are like the average of all the users you surveyed. So let's just say the average age you found was someone who's 28 years old, and they have like the average of all of them. So oftentimes when you're interviewing a lot of users, it's kind of hard to really define who you're trying to solve for. So that's why you have personas to like average all of them out. So I could just refer to like this person, like, oh, this person like values a lot of convenience. So making sure you're solving something that is convenient for the users. And also like kind of just like really synthesizing all the needs and different expectations and averaging them. And this also often shapes the product strategy and really identifies like who you're solving for. Instead of like looking through everybody, you kind of averaged all their data. So it's like not too hard to kind of keep track of everything. And also it can always be changing as well. So oftentimes you want to interview a lot of different users. Sometimes you have different personas. Like for example, like at EA, I worked on some employee-facing products. So I would interview like managers and also individual contributors, and those have different personas as well. So definitely we can go a lot of ways with personas. At a hackathon, you typically don't go in depth, but this is what companies do, and this is usually like industry standard. And the next step is you want to define, which means you put together all this information you found, and making sure that you are like trying to ideate a problem statement. So you want to have this central source of truth. The problem statement is basically the mission statement of your project, the problem you're trying to solve, because design is all about solving problems, and working in tech, working on any project at a hackathon even, it's all about solving problems, and making sure that it actually fulfills some need. And so this is kind of like my Discord example. I basically introduced Discord and found that it's hard to keep it's hard to keep track of messages because of there's no bookmarking, people miss major updates, and these are kind of the pain points I found. And this is kind of the questions I've asked. I asked, like, how do you feel? What do you define as important? Do you check all of it? How many times a day? Ranking the features from most important to least important. So these are just some of the questions I've asked during my initial empathize phase to find out what problem I'm trying to solve. And so this is oftentimes the job of a user researcher. As a UX designer, it's also good to know all these things as well. And also in the beginning, it's also important to establish metrics. How would you measure success? Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't drive the business more revenue, there's no point in doing that. Like, even if it might improve the lives of users, if it does not translate into revenue, then the company will not invest in it. Leadership will turn that down. Engineers, product managers will not be motivated. It's not good for the business overall. So that's why it's super important to establish metrics. How would you measure success? So these metrics can be anything related to the project, whether it's qualitative. You want to just have both qualitative and quantitative metrics. So qualitative meaning like, how do people feel? Like things you can't really measure with numbers, kind of like user satisfaction, like how do they feel? Task completion rate, whether they can understand your application, understand your project, and be able to complete tasks. Retention rate, how many times users spend on it, and advocacy, how many times users recommend. So these are always changing, like depending on what project you're working on, but it's always important to have metrics. Some for a measurement of success and set in the beginning. So making sure your design can be measured with something, because that, in the end of the day, proves to the business that it can actually make money and stuff, so the business will invest in it. And this is another common diagram you see. It's called a double diamond. It's usually, so this is kind of like the ideate phase or the empathize phase, when you think of all these problems and you think of like different ways and all these problem pain points, and you converge. So this is your define phase. Once you narrow down a problem statement here, that one mission statement in your project, you go on and think of all these ideas, all these possible ways you can see it. And then you later decide on like a few, and later decide to prototype it, and later test it and deliver it. So this is really similar. It just shows you like kind of what kind of thinking that goes on. Like this is when you think outside the box, where I think kind of go crazy about the problem statement and think of all these different ways you can solve it and like innovate that way. And so next step is ideate. So like you think of all these different ways, like how might we solve this? This is like the stock photo designer you see with all these post-it notes. You want to think outside the box to drive solutions to problems. And oftentimes it's great to do these in a group setting, because as a designer, you often work in a group, and oftentimes you'll miss things that you don't know already because you're solving with someone else. So it's also really important to have somebody else involved as well, and to just keep expanding the problem space while working in the group. And also, like at the end, after you have all these sticky notes, sometimes you do something called affinity mapping, where you map close to ideas, like similar ideas together, and you later pick a few of these ideas to test using a prototype. So that's when you go into Figma and make like a fake version, make a version of the app that's not connected to code yet, and test it out to making sure that users really understand how to use the app, and how to like work through and navigate and solve their tasks with the app. And this is when you want to like diverge again, think of all these ideas. And now you want to prototype it. So after you thought you narrowed down to the ideas you want to solve for, this is definitely like you want to put on your scientist hat and think of and just experiment, like kind of explore solutions. You want to run the users through a series of tasks to do, and making sure that they're able to solve them. So oftentimes you like write a task list, like a series of different tasks, and like and unleash the prototype to the users and see if they're able to solve these tasks, and like look at how they feel about it. And sometimes you can like do it in person, look at how they feel, and like see if they complete a task or not. And the goal is just find the best solution, and also finding out constraints, problems, how users reflect, feel, and behave. And these are also like seen in both the qualitative and quantitative metrics. So that's just when you also want to involve metrics again. Let's say task completion rate, how satisfied they are, and just like really test it out and validate your designs. And it will also drive iterations and seeing how it would go again. So prototype is the one step before testing it. And so sometimes you have like lower fidelity designs because you're not connecting it to code yet. And this is just an example of the prototype where I just sketched it out. My Discord case study where I can like tap on the message, bookmark it. It's like a new option I integrated within the system. And then I can bookmark it and also access another tab. I can access all my bookmarks based on the category I selected. So just an example of like a low fidelity wireframe. And again, this is kind of like going to the UI design part where you kind of apply color, typography, styles, and everything as well. Definitely start with sketches to validate your idea, and then you move on because it takes more time, costs more money to do this. And yeah, so it's just like a really, this is an example of the prototype. So it's not connected to any code, but here I'm showing you different categories you can use to bookmark your messages on Discord. You can access them all. I have a little channel. This is all not real. This is all done in Figma. And you can access all your bookmarks, see the different categories, and then decide. You can delete them as well. You can see different categories, what you bookmarked. And yeah, so this is an example that I sent to user testers to see if they're able to understand my design. Different prototyping tools, Figma is one of my favorites. These are just the ones that I'm personally familiar with the most. There's definitely a lot more out there, but this is just the ones that I am personally familiar with. And later you want to test it. So like I was kind of a little skipping ahead on the prototyping part, but essentially testing it is you involve your prototype. So explore hypothesis, which are basic assumptions, how users will react. So let's say like if users are faced with this app, or if users want to like bookmark messages, then they will be able to like understand how to do that. So basically like just send out like things you think the users would do and later test that out. And yeah, these are usually done with usability testing, writing down a series of tasks and solving them. Also like the results you end with just like refining your problem statement, like getting a deeper understanding. And later these tests based on the results you get will drive iterations of your product. And just like think of like, let's say you missed something, you missed like key feature, or users kept missing some key feature. Then you want to kind of think back and see how might we make it so users will have a clear call to action on something. Basically, usability testing is one of the testing methods. It's basically testing how easy it is for it to use and testing it on real users. It just like really helps define what the user faces and the problems, and driving data, keep iterating upon that as well, and keep improving your product based on how users react to it. And yeah, so this is kind of going in metrics again. You definitely want to collect these metrics as you are testing it out. And also, when you're a designer, it's really, really important to consider accessibility, which is how easy can people use your product? Because number one, like once you consider these things, like it will make it easier for everybody to use your product, not just the people with disabilities. But also, when you design for people with disabilities, you make a more inclusive product, so you enable them to be able to experience and enjoy your product. You also unlock a new market. So not only you can improve the lives of your current users who may not have disabilities, you unlock a new market, and you also make your product more inclusive. So this is why accessibility is super, super important to consider at all phases. Let's say you're an engineer. And let's just say people are using a screen reader. It's important to add alt text and images so that they can understand what the image is, and just like little things like that. So accessibility touches both engineers, product managers, designers to think about, increase your target audience reach. And there's definitely these standards like AAA as the goal. You can look these up. There's a huge list and a lot of studies done on this as well by WCAG, which is this organization. And yeah, some examples can be like topography, hierarchy. Can people be able to group information together easily? Is there enough contrast? Are people like able to read the text? Are colorblind people able to see the green text? And just like making sure all these things, having consistent navigation, having helpful arrow states, clear focus states, and just making sure everything's easy to understand to really help the users know like how to actually use their product is really important. And so now talk about UX design, kind of the relationship between user and a product. So UX design is really similar to design thinking. It's a process solving problems while balancing both business goals and user needs. So it's a balancing act. But you also need to consider like tech limitations and business constraints. Like let's say a company wants to hit X revenue by this quarter. So you want to consider all these things. So it's a really balancing act between psychology, business, marketing, and also technology and engineering as well. So as a designer, it's really important to know a little bit of everything, but you'll be able to like communicate. So design is not just pushing pixels, it's a lot more. It's a balancing act and being able to communicate well. And so when you design a project, the first priority is have it useful, like actually solves a problem. And later people actually know how to use it, and later it looks beautiful. So these are kind of like the priorities you should consider when you're working through your product. And so again, this is really similar process to design thinking. You kind of go through that as well. So as a designer, it's really important. And so UX design is not just for design. You can be as if you're in school or thinking of different career paths you can go into. You can be a user researcher, which is you'll be involved in like empathize phase where you identify a lot of user goals through research. You also help out with a lot of usability testing and validating these goals, researching the users, researching the market. And then what I do is I'm a UX designer, so I define these user goals based on the constraints and results I got. Design wireframes and doing a little bit of testing as well. You can also be a UI engineer, UX engineer. Basically, you are involved in a lot of design systems, like building systems, using functional specs, sitemaps, wireframes. Basically, the bridge between designer and developer. You help make proof of concepts, meaning you make a proof of concept for the design, making sure it's like possible to be implemented to the developer as well. So you kind of have to have knowledge of both design and development. So it's kind of like a little bit of both. Another thing can be involved is a content strategist. So it's kind of copywriter. So basically manages like what's the caption on different websites, what content is there, which is also really, really important as well. So all these fields have to do with UX, and it's not just for design. You can be involved in research, engineering, content, marketing, and all these different fields. And so if you guys are interested in getting started with UX design, it's important to learn the fundamentals first, like what is design thinking, like what guys are doing right now. Practice it by joining hackathons. I actually did over 10 hackathons this year just to practice, improve at design tools. Like usually when you're in design tools are always changing. So don't make it your priority to be perfect at Figma, because a few years ago it was Sketch and now it's Figma, and it could be something else later on. So these are always changing, but the process of solving problems, the process of communicating with stakeholders, process of communicating with engineers, product managers, these are more important than mastering a design tool, because these design tools can always be learned. But like that thinking, the design thinking, the solving a problem is more important to focus on as a designer, and just getting feedback on your work. And you should always be getting feedback on everything, because you don't know what you don't know. So that's why it's important to have like a mentor or class or instructor or a community like design buddies to help you, guide you to your right direction. Just kind of check in and making sure that you're going the right direction. And so so this is kind of going into UX design. Like what exactly does a designer do? So a little bit of everything. So we both do a lot of strategy and content. So doing a lot of market research, competitor analysis, user research, which drives the product strategy, how the product will solve the problem, and developing some of the content. Also being a little more technical and doing some wireframing and prototyping, and also doing some iterations and planning development. And also coordination, like execution analysis, meaning like working with other UI designers and developers, tracking goals, analysis. So like basically with the product end to end, being a designer, you are really with that product from all parts of the cycle as well. So that's why it's super important to know the product left and right, up and down, like everything about that product. Basically, to sum it up, balancing business goals and user needs while keeping business goals and technical limitations in mind. And so now to talk about UI design. UI is user interface, how things look and feel. So UI design, like after you kind of develop the UX, like after you have the product done, the research, content, layout, you want to think of how to make it look pretty, how to make it look beautiful. Making it attractive and making sure that users have a good experience, emotional. And I think it's nice to use as well. Like make it more beautiful, and also tying it to the overall branding of the project. And so like the goal of UI design is basically be able to like help the user understand how to get through the project, basically visually guiding the user through the product's interface, making it intuitive, making it easy to understand, making it look nice, making it look really pleasing, and just like enhancing the UX. And so UI design includes a lot of things like icons, buttons, typography, like how text looks like, what font you're using, how things lay out on a screen, what color you use, and like seeing what color elicits what emotion you want the product to bring. Imagery, what kind of images you use, how much spacing, how much breathing room, to carry emphasis on different things, responsive design, how this website would look like on mobile, how this app would look like on the iPad. So responsive in different screen sizes, how this app would look like on different screens, which is also important in accessibility. And so UI is really important. Like how things look might seem a little shallow, but it really is important. Because think of like, at least this is America. In America, we have this huge grocery store chain or huge like department store chain called Target, and like Target has their own brand of cereal, but the branded cereal, even if they literally contain the same ingredients, the branded cereal is twice the price as the generic Target brand, but then they have more sales and they can mark it up because users are drawn to brands that they trust. That's why UI ties into branding, and branding is really important to driving user acquisition and instill trust in the users as well. Even though it might seem shallow, people care a lot about brands and how brands stand out, what reputation they have, and UI ensures that the project aligns with the overall company's brand. And so usually UI comes a little bit later in the product design process, like usually after the problem's defined, the stories are made, the wireframes, the sketches are made, and the mockups are included. It's actually after tested because these are more higher fidelity stages you'll get into, but it's also super, super important. And so UI designer kind of defines the look and feel of the product, and then not only look at the customers, study some psychology, look at what emotions they want to elicit, and like what colors you want to use to drive the users to feel a certain way, and also like knowing some branding and guidelines and some branding tactics and some marketing, and just like storytelling and stuff like that, and also like being able to like prototype. And sometimes like as a UI designer, you can either focus on like how things look, or you can work with developers who can do design systems and just like making sure that all the components can be developable, can be like able to be developed for the developer. And so lastly, I ended with a little bit about my design journey. So I started off growing up as an anime artist. Growing up, I wanted to be an anime artist and a game designer. I had no idea I was ever going to be in STEM at all, or science and engineering at all. I've also like loved to draw comics. Thought of just moving to Japan and drawing anime. I also ran cross country and track, so I had a blog presence. I just talked about running and had a lifestyle blog. This is all in high school. I came into college. I came to my undergrad in 2015. I studied bioengineering pre-med because I wanted to learn how to biohack myself to run faster. My dream was become a neurosurgeon with the MD PhD. I learned the hard way that after doing that for a few years, I learned that I actually don't enjoy it. I should not do things just for my resume. And then I started my own art business called Candid Leaf Designs, just carry on that childhood interest of mine. And then halfway through my undergrad, I decided to switch to computer science and game design and game development, and doing a little bit of VR stuff and doing some internship in that field. And I graduated from my undergrad last year. After I graduated, I decided to do a master's in computer science and engineering because my bachelor's was a bioengineering degree with a minor in computer science, but I knew I wanted to work somewhere in tech, but I feel like I wasn't qualified. So I signed up for a master's, and after kind of taking a few classes, I realized that, and also running across this class called Students Who Design on Facebook, I realized that UX and product design was what I wanted to do after taking that class and doing a lot of hackathons and doing some internships. So that's what I'm doing now. And along the way, before I landed my internship, I actually started this large community called Design Buddies. We actually hit 10,000 members this week and got Discord partnered with Discord itself a few weeks ago. So it's been a super exciting journey. And so that's where I'm at now. I'm currently at EA, graduating in June. And also just trying to recruit and everything for full time. So that's where I'm at now. So yeah, that concludes this part of my presentation. I'll be taking any questions and later doing a Figma demo, but you guys are welcome to connect with me on any of my social media platforms. I do Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Feel free to join Design Buddies, and let me just check the comments. Awesome. Cool. So now I will be going over a demo of Figma. And let me know if you guys want to start with the problem and ideate something out of it as well. So let me stop the share and make a new share to Figma. Let me share my Figma. Oh, I don't
Hey,
see it. Hello.
Vishal here again.
Hello.
I had a few questions before you started the demo.
Yeah, of course.
So I have seen your researches and your case studies on your website, and they're really very interesting.
Thank
And I
you.
wanted to know how do you like go about building a case study? Where do you start, or like what are the things that you keep in mind when you
Yes.
do any
So
study?
let me just show an example if that helps. So I'm gonna show my actually I'm gonna show my old one. So I guess I can just talk through it because it's kind of like a little bit of NDA stuff that I'm not completely done yet. I actually have a new portfolio that I redesigned on Webflow. I haven't launched it yet. But for case studies, it depends. So let me just share a screen so it's easier for me to like talk through it. Ling, Webflow. So yeah, this is actually my new portfolio. And yeah, so this is how my portfolio looks like, and like these are just like case studies I've done. I got approval from my manager to show my EA case study, so I'll just talk through that. Yeah, so this is my new portfolio. So this is like actually like for a hackathon, it might be easier. It might be easier to understand some. This is like a 6-month or not 6-month, 6-week long project. But I'll just get an example. So usually I think of like I start with what problem I'm solving. So I think of like how might we enable players to find help faster, and then showing the final product, and also talking more of the problem, why it's important, and like showing why it's a problem, what users are struggling with, and then I will think through, look at some market research, do some competitive analysis, and then I would look through like wireframes and how I would redesign the website. The structured information hierarchy to reflect the problem I'm trying to solve. My problem is helping users find help faster, so I start with the game and then kind of do a flow, doing a lot of pros and cons, and justifying why I did my decisions and balancing user needs and business goals, and also more iterations and stuff, more pros and cons, and justifying why I designed something to meet a user need or a business goal. And then I would have iterations, like more high fidelity iterations where I added color, typography, and everything, and how like I added some personalization, how it's meet user needs by making it easier for users to find help, but also add some marketing material, like promotional material for the business. And also like more similar as well, doing some user testing where I ran through this project, did some usability testing with 24 players. Players meaning users, had some results, average task completion rate, how they were able to answer, complete the task, some key takeaways, what I've learned, like these things users need, meaning the users were able to be able to navigate through that and like help them complete the task. And also making some subsequent iterations where I took the data I've learned to redesign, and then different touch points, logged in versus not logged in, before and after against before screen, the screen I redesigned, before screen I redesigned, design system, next steps, lessons learned, design system. I also lessons learned really important. Next step, and design system is basically like components, like different ways of organizing your files so it's compartmentalized so it can be handed off to developers easily. So that includes like from having a universal naming convention to having styles, everything's named properly, shadows, colors, components, icons, buttons, menus, titles, forms, navigation, images, promotional banners, a little bit everything. So that's how I would lay it out, just starting from a problem, and driving to a solution, if that makes sense. Yeah, if you let me know. Yeah.
Yes, your new portfolio looks really cool.
Thank
When is
you.
this going live?
This week actually, I still need to finish up. I'm actually redoing my Discord. I'm like revising my Discord case study, and I'm also like making some final changes to my EA one, and then I'll release it live, and just making sure all the links are working and stuff as well. But yeah, this is my new portfolio. I built this whole thing. My old one looks it's like night and day. My old one. So yeah, I spent a lot of time
Yes,
working on this.
definitely. This is so cool. This is so cool. Well, thanks for sharing your points on the ideas and case studies, because like
Yeah, of course.
that's really very helpful.
Thank you.
So yes, I'll just check for you if we have any more questions from anyone.
Hmm.
We don't seem to have. Okay, we don't seem to have any more questions. So should
Okay.
we proceed to the demo?
Yeah, sure. I can share my Figma. I can't find it on here. It won't let me share apps. I was able to do it before. Let me
That's
just open
normal.
up Figma in my browser. Um, yeah,
I do
I
have so many drafts on my Figma that I'll lose important ones so easily.
oh, I see. So let me actually open up Figma in my browser because it won't let me share the application. So I'll just open up the projects I want to show. Let me open it up. Yeah, because I had it all like lined up on Figma, so I'll just open up new tabs.
That's cool. Take your time. No hurry. And in the
Cool.
meantime, for the folks watching us on YouTube, why don't you let us know where you're from? And if it's the same time zone for you, where you're from IST and PTD. So if it's you're joining us from any other time zones, let us know. Also, let us know how Automax has been for you so far, or if you have any questions for Grace, maybe related to UX or UI, or maybe how did you build your first UI project, or how did you come up with the UI design in the first place? Okay, we have a fan here,
Oh,
Nimit
thank you.
Samal. They say I'm a big fan of Grace Ling.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That makes two of us,
Yeah,
Nimit.
cool. I will share my screen now. Guys see. Oh, oh, I see myself. Oh, okay. Cool. Okay, cool. I'm assuming you see my application window. I open up Figma in my browser. So I have three projects open. I have my Hack for Humanity project that I've done in Figma that I did it in a 24-hour hackathon. Figma, you can do anything. I even made my resume in Figma, so you really can do anything. It's super cool. And then like later, I can like later, you guys can choose whether you want to redesign this or give me any problem you want me to solve, and I can like do a little whiteboarding thing. But yeah, so this is Figma. If you guys are new, this is a prototyping tool. So this is what I made for Hack for Humanity. We actually won first place. Super exciting. It's an app. It's called Yeats because you yell yeet when you when you find low cost eats. It's a web scraping tool to find low cost groceries that's local to the user. And it shows you the healthy choices to kind of combat both food insecurity and health issues. So that's why it's called Yeats. And then we kind of just like made an app, prototyped it, meaning linking screens together and adding some interactions. And then like and Figma as a developer, you can even click on different screens and seeing some CSS, iOS, or Android code for that as well. And then you can have different pages, which you can like have different pages of a project. And this is Figma. You have different tools. You can make rectangles, make all these different design tools, share it with people, play it. So I'm gonna like demo a prototype for you all to explore. I'm gonna start over. I start here. So this is Yeats. Can log in. This is like a fake app. It's like how the app would look like after it's being coded. So I'm just entering my budget and I'm seeing all these choices. I see a green smoothie. I want to add to my cart. I want to check out. I want to be able to pick it up here. Confirm. See the fastest route. Thank you for your order. Go home. Search for food. Yeah, all these things you could do as well. So yeah, this is our prototype. It's actually like the app, in like before it's coded. So this is a way you give to developers. And then yeah, so for the remaining time, feel free to let me know in the chat whether or like via voice, like whether you want to redesign this or give me a problem you want me to solve and use design thinking. Let's see. Comments. But yeah, let's just do an example. I realize I'm sharing my screen and I see myself in here. So yeah, so let's just say you want to design a hackathon website. Then you can have frame, and you want to make a desktop. You want to do a MacBook Pro, and then you can have this. And then let's just say at a hackathon, you want to know information. So usually users read from left to right. So then you would press T or press text, make a text box, and do like home. And then you would see, or actually though, you guys have anything you want me to make? Okay, so I guess I'll just kind of go for it. So home, so the problem we're trying to solve is that you want to know more, you want to drive more users to sign up for a hackathon or something like that. Or actually, let's do something else. I know we only have 12 minutes left. Let's just say, let's just scratch that. So let's just say there are a lot of COVID patients, and it's hard to, like, lots of COVID patients, healthcare system, like nurses, need to assign rooms to patients quickly, because there's a long line outside, people are getting impatient, people are getting sick. So yeah, this is the problem. They want to assign it quickly. So quickly, making sure that the design is very intuitive, very quick to use. So that means this app will probably be on the iPad because nurses are always running around. So they probably will not be carrying a computer. So that's why you want iPad. So after you kind of think through your problem, think of the constraints. So like constraints, iPad, because nurses are always moving around and it's a larger screen compared to the phone. They can see all the rooms. iPad, and then like hospital, so like demographic nurses. And yeah, so use cases hospital during COVID season. And so yeah, so after you have your problem and constraints, you want to start ideating. So I'm skipping a lot of steps due to time, but essentially you want to interview nurses, seeing what current technologies they're using, what pain points they experience, how many patients they get a day, and all these metrics. But I'm just, for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to show, the purpose of showing more Figma things, I'm going to skip a few steps. So I'm going to do a tablet, and you can do iPad, let's say iPad 11-inch. So this is an iPad app. Usually iPad is flipped vertically. And then yeah, so let's just say you want to check in your patient. Or you want a display to kind of display the current rooms available quickly, nurse patients quickly. So when you want to do it quickly, you want to know like what room is available right away. So let's just say this is the dashboard. It can rename this dashboard. The main home. So we're gonna just use rest of time to do the dashboard. So this is all just from scratch. So we're gonna do a dashboard. So usually when nurses are in a hurry, they want to be able to tab through things quickly. So this is a no navigation. So dashboard, can do home. So we're on the dashboard right now. And for purpose of time, I'm going to go a little bit faster. We can increase the text size here to make it more readable on the iPad. So we are actually on dashboard. So we are dashboard, which is the home. And then you want to know like what room is available. So let's just do, this is the map of the room. And so you kind of want to like map out the hospital building and maybe color code it. So you want to know like which rooms are available, which ones are not. And just kind of keep making those. And so this is just a map of the building. I can even put them closer together. Yeah, so this is the hospital. And then this is like the whole hallway, little central area, and the hallway. So this is the hospital layout because you want to be able to assign rooms quickly. So these are all rooms. So that means you want to be able to color code them. Usually in wireframes, you typically don't show color. But for the purpose of this, just the purpose of, skipping a few steps, I'm checking comments. I'm going to show some colors. So let's just say all the rooms, when they're occupied, they are red. So you want to know, you want a little key. So this is a dashboard of room database. You want to know which rooms are empty, are also like not in maintenance. So different use cases, like some rooms can be empty, but they're dirty, so they need cleaned. Some rooms may have contaminants, so they need cleaned. So there's a lot of use cases. So room database, so like key, so like you can have different colors. So let's just say green is available. You can make it a little smaller. So green meaning available. So this is when the information hierarchy comes into play. So key, definitely it's a larger, it's like a title, it's like a heading. And then everything below the heading should be a little smaller. So you want to make it regular, different line heights, different line weights, making maybe this a little bit smaller as well, besides 14. So this is available, and this is green. We want to make it green, available. And then let's say patient is occupied. So yellow could be occupied. It's a neutral state, meaning you still have to pay attention to it. Just someone is there. And then red could be needs cleaning, because red elicits the emotion of urgency. So that's why you tap into these emotions to determine what colors you want to do. So now you have the key. You can basically randomly assign these to people. I'm just going to click on a few just for demo purposes. And so these rooms are ready for new patients. These rooms need cleaning. And the rest of the rooms are occupied. So now the nurse will really quickly know which room is where. And, hospitals are quite large. So sometimes it would be really helpful to see a map. So this is basically the room database. So this is just like MVP, minimum viable requirements. And so this is just the rooms. And then you also have map of the whole hospital, because you want to get the users, you have the map on top. You want the users to be able to find their room quickly. So now I'm going to show difference between active state. So map is not here. This is like building map. This is the room database. It's not a regular table format. It's visually laid out because you want to find out which room is empty visually, because you're trying to shuffle in patients really quickly. So sometimes you want to show, this is like the inactive state. So usually inactive states are less emphasis. So it's kind of like that. And then active state, you want to highlight it. Oops. This is the active state. It's highlighted and it's bolded for emphasis. I'm just reordering layers. So we're on room database. And now the second most important thing is to have the building map. Another important thing is having a patient database, like patient lists who need help. So patients is also important as well. We definitely want to have a map so you know exactly where you are in the whole building, and you also like an overview. So I am going to just make this all smaller, duplicate it. So this is just assuming this is the whole building. I'm just duplicating it. So this is the whole hospital. Change it all the same color. Just make it all gray again. Make this all gray. So these are just rooms. And then it's also going back. It's also important to know where the user is so they can assign quickly. So I'll just make this a circle. So let's just say, let's do blue. This is like you are here. It's also important to know where you are located in this. So let's say nurse is using the app and they're standing over here. So these things are really, really important, GPS data. This is the whole building. And so now this one is active. So this one is bolded. And this one is not bolded, regular. You can see where you are. Also having key as well. Just put it anywhere. And then key. And also like when the users are here, sometimes they might be, actually, no, let's not do this. We are not going to use that because it is large. So just actually, we actually are. So that's the key. We are here. And then to highlight which building, which like building they're in the whole hospital building, we are going to highlight it with blue, with the same color. We can change the width 4, make it 8, add some rounded corners, and highlight that. So you are here. Another important thing is to know the patients. You can also, whenever you design, you should always be naming things. So this is map, this is patients. I know we have like 2 more minutes left, so if you feel, let me know if you have any questions. Just check the comments. Okay, cool. And so you also want to know like who are the urgent patients. So let's just say you want to filter patients by something. So we want to know, who is like name. That's important to making sure that you are addressing the right patient. Like priority, I guess like priority, important to know the people with the most serious condition should be prioritized. And then let's just say status, like what room they're in. So these 3 things are important to know, and you could probably space that out. And let's just say you have a photo of the patient, so you identify them and do like patient name. So these we'll make these a little bit bigger. And doing that, name, this is definitely pretty big. I'm just gonna do patient name. Priority, let's just say they are in dire need of help. So you would want to do red. Just use color. This person is COVID, meaning red. That white, have contrast. You are like high or maybe high. Using color. And status is no room, needs room. Thing like that. And then like different patients can have different priorities. Patient name, low. Let's just see urgency. Because that's kind of like, language. Let's say this one's low. And then we have medium. Needs room, has room, because that's why they're like healing, so that's why the priority urgency is a bit lower. It's about to be done. And yeah, so these are just a really, I know we're a bit over time, so yeah, this is just basically how we would take this problem, very basic wireframe. There's so many patients, but nurses need to assign rooms quickly, and this is how you would design an app, iPad, because nurses walk around all the time. They can't be on the computer. They also don't want to be on the phone because the screen is smaller. So they can't. It's hard to view maps, and for nurses, they're always standing a lot, so we make an iPad app. But yeah, any questions, concerns, comments, feedback? I will stop sharing. It's giving double. Well, yeah. Oh, thank you. Definitely graceful.
That was really so cool. Like that was me watching a very uh, time lapse of a beautiful design being made,
Thank you.
and that was really helpful. Even if people are not watching for this hackathon, I think this really clears up a lot of things when we go about making a UI design for anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll check if there are any questions. Mm, well,
Oh, thank you.
no,
Appreciate it, Nimit.
that's actually super cool.
Thank you.
So yes, people, if you have any more questions while you are watching the recording, you can drop in comments or join our Discord server and ask us there. I'll
Mm-hmm.
be available. Grace will be available after she takes a break for the weekend, I guess.
Yeah, feel
It's
free to just
because
like
it's nighttime
tag
for
me. Yeah, it's 10:03 right now for me. But feel free to just like at me on Discord. I can answer any questions, and feel free to join Design Buddies as well. If you want more design feedback on any design feedback on the work, so I'll just drop the link in the comments.
Okay, we have one question from Devansh.
Yeah.
Do you want to take it?
What's the question? Let me see.
The, it is, how did you come up with the design buddies?
How did I come up? Oh, yes, Design Buddies. Yes. So, yeah, so Design Buddies was made this April. But prior to that, I used to host. So for me, it kind of was a process. So for me, I came from engineering and all that, and I had professors who were really discouraging. They're like, "Oh, you study bioengineering, therefore you should be working as a bioengineer. Stay in your own lane. You shouldn't be doing that." So then I was just like, I don't feel I didn't listen to them. I was just like, you like, even though like I know you probably mean well, it probably makes sense to you that I should do bioengineering because I did really well in your classes and stuff. But like I realize it's not for me, and that is okay. So like I I didn't have any mentors in school because my school doesn't have a design major. So I turned to the internet, because I have a lot of internet friends, so I turned to the internet to learn more about design, meet more designers. However, the first few communities I joined were not very friendly. Like I felt like there's like gatekeeping involved. I just remember me posting my Discord case studies, my first case study. I was super proud of it. As a new designer, I was like, this is what I learned. Hopefully new designers can learn from that as well. I feel like I'm so proud of it. And like other designers would like say like, oh my god, you're a beginner, you're not even studying design, you're not a real designer, just like making me feel like I don't belong there. And I was just like, you know what, I don't know, for me, like I have a really thick skin, so I'm just like, okay, if the best way to complain is to make things, so I made Design Buddies and just like made it a theme of being an inclusive and diverse design community. And kind of blew up because I kind of tapped on four different trends, four different things. So number one, design is really advancing. Like a lot of people are getting into it. People are discovering it. That's why all these boot camps make so much money. People want to stay together. Second thing is people want to stay together during quarantine, staying connected. And also for me, I have personal story of just like having professors being discouraging, my personal story of feeling like other design communities were gatekeeping and they're not very friendly. Just the only few that I was in, not all. I'm not making generalization, but just the one or two that the one or two first impression for me was not very nice. So a lot of people could like really resonate as well of just having people not supportive in their lives and also feeling like they don't belong in a design community. So that's how I shaped Design Buddies, just having on these four things and just like making it really not a non-judgmental space, a safe space for people to ask questions, converse, learn about design without feeling judged. And we have all our resources are free. We host a lot of events for free. We have a free mentorship program, free resources, because we want to just make it accessible to anybody, regardless of student. It don't cost any money, just to learn design and connect with mentors and anybody. And in result, we have a lot of students. We also have people from director level, VPs in design, joining Design Buddies from companies like EA. And so and also like a lot of different like at Facebook, all these like different fan companies as well, like small like some startups to large tech companies. Like they also somehow found Design Buddies because we went viral on LinkedIn. So it kept growing from there. And so that's how Design Buddies came about and reached 10K members this week. And it's been super exciting.
That's really so cool,
Thank
and
you.
that's such an amazing experience. Like Devansh and me, we both can resonate with the experience you had. And yes, I can definitely tell that Design Buddies is an amazing community to be a part of. If anybody you're wondering how to join, you can find the link in the description of the YouTube video, and you can join. I encourage everyone to join the community because yes, indeed, Design Buddies has been a really very inclusive and very accessible community. And thanks to
Thank
you
you.
for sharing your personal story, even, which
Yeah, of
encouraged
course.
you to build design communities.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So I think we don't have any more questions, and I think with this, I will thank you again for joining us and taking this wonderful workshop. And I hope that Design Buddies keep growing the way it is right now.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And anybody who is watching this in the future, please feel free to drop in comments or join in the Discord servers and feel free to ask us anything. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.